Hi, Decoders. This week we are tackling the topic of family, specifically siblings. When we start to become more aware, how does that relationship change? I also have a bit of a trigger warning for about 5 minutes in the middle of this episode, so I'll give you some notice for that. Hi, I'm Kiran Trace. Welcome to Humans Decoded, a story of hobbits, fairies, elves, dwarfs, gnomes, and humans. If you get lost at any point, there is a deep dive on all the different avatars in episode 1. It includes notes. Thank you for joining us in a fun little chat about the vast potential of our human makeup. Hi, Leela. Hi, Cam.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today.
Same. Hi, everybody in the world.
Hello,
I love
everybody
how you say
in the world. So, yeah, why are we talking about this, Leela?
Because a friend of mine recently asked me, how is it actually to have siblings? Because she's an only child. And I thought that was such a brilliant question. I never even, reflected or even questioned that, because I have two brothers. I grew up with siblings. I don't know how it is otherwise. And after a moment, I had to think about it. And after a moment, I said, it's kind of like you have these inbuilt friends for life that are kind of random people you would never choose to hang out with, but they're your siblings. So you have them. And the way I feel about my brothers now is kind of I can fight with them like I fight with nobody else, but we're also best friends. And I also talked about this with my companion, and he said for him, it always felt like having an ally in life with his sister, like especially against their parents.
I think that's a bit of a rare experience, actually. I think more typically is that siblings are just really challenging relationships because you have to be together all the time as children. And if you don't like each other very much, that just sucks.
I feel like we're opening up a can of worms.
For real.
Yeah, I also, full disclosure, decoders, I find family stuff sometimes very triggery. I have a lot of karmic baggage in that area. So it's the most sticky area and where I get identified most easily. So just, to make you aware, I may be carrying some of that baggage as we explore this topic together. But I have a handful of siblings, blended families, stepsister, half-sister, full sister, brothers. And with the ones I grew up inside of my nuclear family, one sister, I really love her. She's adorable. And I also don't know anyone whose values are more different than mine, which can make it really heated, especially when she insists that I should be more like her or more like, the family motto. And so we maintain a superficial relationship of sorts. Sometimes it's really nice, but mostly it's complicated, so we don't spend a lot of time together. And then with my other sister, we have this chemistry like a house on fire. We were unstoppable. We used to be such a menace when we were younger. Like, people would see us coming. We were both fairies as well. Oh. So we were the trouble and the party makers. But there was zero respect for boundaries, and there's basically zero contact now, which is hard sometimes, and I feel is probably the right move for me. But even so, it feels like this limb that's been chopped off. Like I feel it, even though there's no contact. It's just never not there. So yeah, it's kind of an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, I think that's more common. We can be very clear and aligned in some areas of our lives, but the family dynamic is one of the hardest, murkiest, most challenging ones. For me, as you guys all know, my relationships with family are pretty much toxic. And I have a load of siblings. I got step ones and half ones and pure ones, and there was a bunch of them, whole bunch. And two of them were close when I was younger, but they still felt toxic. And certainly as I became clearer, those relationships fell away. It still took many years. And I will say today, I still feel that poke, as Cami says, from a limb that's there. Like, I wish it wasn't there. I wish I was an only child. My Lord.
I always wished that too when I was little. So, can we take a closer look at these toxic relationships? Like, how do they occur and what do they look like and why? And, examine them.
So what we're saying here is the more common relationship we have with our siblings is toxic. It's rare that it is harmonious or sweet or friendly. Always friendly. And the toxic relationship setup has got a few different dynamics, but the fundamental is that each one of us decoders are wired uniquely. And just because we have the same DNA or we're put together in a family, it doesn't make us have the same values. And so in a family dynamic that runs in that kind of nuclear family setup, which is to say the main caregivers, like make all the choices, and then the children are kind of pushed together 24/7. So imagine this, like you meet someone on the street randomly and they have a totally different value to you. They voted for the other guy. They don't think hygiene is a thing to focus on. They move maybe much faster than you, much slower than you. And then you are put together 24/7, all the time. Same living room, same shows, same bedroom sometimes, oftentimes. Same dinner table, same meal. Walking to school together, walking home together. Same play space, often same play dates. Same toys. You're beside each other in the car, right beside each other for 16 years.
Oh, God.
Like, it's horrible. And I'll say, like, it's very, very rare that you would share the same DNA and the same values. So to have a lovely relationship with your sibling under those conditions, as you can imagine, is really fraught. It's just fraught with difficulties. And decoders, you guys know I'm a very big proponent of authenticity, having the space and boundaries to do that. So that's room enough for everybody to have their own authentic rhythm. And that's a very unique challenge for a parent to allow for that. It's very possible, parents and children of parents listening, so everybody, the whole world, it's just not the norm in a nuclear family setup where we're constantly telling stories of we want our siblings to be best friends and we keep pushing them together.
Oof, it's giving me flashbacks. As I mentioned, I grew up with a blended family. Both my parents were divorced and then remarried. My dad remarried my stepmom and had a kid together. So I have a half brother and a stepsister from her first marriage. And we used to have raging fights as a kid. And now I feel like maybe a little compassion for the adults having to navigate all of that, because the politics were like fraught. They were complicated. We'd have these fights where we'd slap and pinch and chase each other around the house. And then my stepmom would try to stand up for her daughter, but she's careful not to alienate or upset my dad. My dad's trying to not show that he's like preferential to anyone. So it was just this whole like chaotic soup.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I loved all my brothers since day one. As I said, when I was a kid, I wished I was an only child and had everything to myself. Because I'm the oldest of three, and one of my brothers is 2 years younger than me, and the other one 15 years younger. And so with my baby brother, I've always been quite close. We always had a very lovely, friendly relationship, and I truly loved playing with him when he was little. And I kind of got to relive my own childhood in that way. It was very sweet. But as you can imagine, maybe the brother that's closer to me in age, oh my God, did I hate him at times. We've had like the ugliest fights. They were physical when we were smaller, but then later when we were, when it wasn't appropriate anymore to just punch each other, we had such ugly verbal fights. Like, I don't think I said such nasty things to anyone else in my whole life.
I think everyone can relate to that. The nastiest thing we've ever said in our life was probably to your sibling.
Oh yeah. And right back at you. Like the nastiest thing, like the cuttiest comments that you ever had definitely came from a sibling. And I feel like none of us would speak like that to anyone in the world. There seems to be like a special kind of insult sauce reserved for siblings.
That's so true.
Yes.
However, many years later, like after sifting through my pain bodies and belief systems for quite some time, that changed our relationship a lot. And it's only now that I'm able to enjoy my brother, the one that's closer to me in age, that I'm able to enjoy him as he is, without putting expectations on him or expectations on us. So yeah, it's not been like we love each other since day one, not at all. Like, even when he was born, I was so jealous, and I would, like, that's my mom's favorite story to tell to everybody. I would walk over to his crib and pinch him. Like, yeah, I was that older sister monster. It's embarrassing, but, well, expose your shit, huh?
I mean, it's so innocent, though. It is so innocent. And it's really, everybody involved is innocent. The kids are innocent, and the parents. I mean, all of you decoders, that you were young and unskilled, or maybe older and unskilled. You didn't have the training on how to deal with all this. I want to put like a little warning here, everybody. So if there's little people with you listening to this podcast, maybe turn the podcast off, maybe put headphones on for your kids, just for about 5 minutes here, because we'll be discussing some challenging details. Or if you're already triggered by this, just by a sibling, I don't know. Maybe you want to also tune out, or maybe you really want to tune in. I don't know. Here's your warning notice, just for a few minutes. Okay. Because I'm me, I also want to put some data on the table here, which nobody wants to hear this, and parents really don't want to hear this, but we need to hear this. There is a staggering amount of inappropriate sexual misconduct or full abuse that happens by siblings. It's primarily never reported, as you can imagine. You can't tell on a sibling by the very fact that they're a limb for the rest of your life, as Cami saying. And ironically, you could report on a parent more than you could report on a sibling. And it's so enormously underreported and overwhelmingly one of the main sources of sexual abuse in children. So the main source is a more general people in the parents' close circle, specifically grandparents, aunts, uncles, babysitters, and the parents themselves, and siblings. Any of that group is the most likely source of inappropriate behavior or abuse. So, with siblings, the inappropriate sexual violations occur because of the lack of boundaries. Because there's no boundaries in a sibling relationship. It's innocently created because you're forced together 24/7. Right? Nobody asked Leela if she wanted a little brother. She walks over and pinches him. At some point, these behaviors become more and more aggressive, as Leela says. You start punching each other, screaming at each other, yelling at each other. We cross each other's boundaries physically all the time, emotionally all the time, mentally all the time. It's built in this nuclear family setup. So because of this, because there's the nature of that erodes the interpersonal boundaries, it happens. That's how it happens. You walk into each other's bedrooms, you eat each other's shit, you take each other's stuff, and you don't think about the other person as a person. It's just a limb. It's just your other tree limb. And so it gets confused, and it's very, very, very disruptive. And it's so innocent, and it's so blind, and it acts out. And yes, it can often happen with emerging male energy towards younger sisters. But the majority of the movement isn't that. Like, sisters can lure other sisters into abusive relationships with another close member that's dangerous. I'm not going to go into details. You get the gist. But what's important, the most important thing here, is there are no signs. There are no tells. It isn't that the siblings don't like each other. Sometimes they're incredibly close. Sometimes they're best friends. There isn't a tell in the sense that maybe the family is super dysfunctional, or the family has weird sexual repressions or weird sexual expressions. There is no tell. That's really important. But there is prevention. There is solution, which is stop forcing your children together. Stop forcing your children to be friends. Stop forcing your children to inhabit the same space all the time. Make boundaries very important in your household. Allow your children to have their own rhythms that doesn't reflect your values. If your child wants to quit a sport, it doesn't mean you're a family of quitters. And specifically, don't force your 9-year-old all the way to 15 or 18-year-old son to constantly be with your younger daughters as a forced habit, where your younger daughters don't have space or autonomy or boundaries. Children are innocent on both sides. In this situation, both the predator and the victim are innocent. And the challenge is that there's no opportunity for either child to understand this, to look at this, to heal from this, probably for the rest of their lives. It's part of that. You can't report it. This is a tree limb that never goes away. And it's a relationship. Even when you sever the relationship, it's still a limb that pokes at you. It's still so unbelievably taboo to even look at this. And it's entirely preventable. We just have to shake up the stories that parents hold and shake up that nuclear family story also. When I was younger, so I have this one brother, and we were very close. We would sort of go into our own bubble. We would finish each other's sentences. We would make each other laugh. We had our own jokes, in-jokes, our own in-language. In many ways, I felt like he was a support in an environment where I had so much violence and inappropriateness coming from the adults. And from the outside, looking in, you thought that this was such a perfect relationship. It seemed very harmonious. But in hindsight, he was as much as my abuser as anyone. And honestly, there was no tell. There was literally not a parent, not a teacher, not my other siblings. Like, nobody could see that. But he had monopolized my attention. He physically abused me. He was sexually inappropriate with me. And importantly, really importantly, he helped build a pattern inside of me that I believed it was very natural and necessary for people to treat me badly if they loved me. So, safe to say, we have zero contact anymore. And y'all might be glad to hear, like, I have zero contact with any of my siblings and almost zero contact with any of the adults. And certainly zero contact with any of the adults that were directly violent or abusive. I think, honestly, I still struggle. I see an innocence of a movement when it's actually aggression against me. I still work a lot to try to lean back from really weird spaces instead of leaning forwards, because that lean forward was so mirrored to us in our sibling relationships. We're always being pushed towards each other, lean forward. So it's all very preventable.
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing I put a lot of pressure on myself, currently, to become more family oriented or constantly feel this shame. Like, why can't I just be easygoing and go spend time with my family like everybody else in the world? But there's just no space for me there. They really don't know how to just be in an environment where I can be. They don't know how to cultivate any kind of environment that encourages or celebrates any authenticity or beingness. So it feels like I'm being electrocuted from the inside. It's not a great space for me to be in. And I'm seeing now that we were handed down this story from my mom, and she had trouble with her siblings. So she would be like, you're not allowed to fight and we're always together. And siblings are the most important bonds you can have in your life. No, 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 no. And so in her world, she kind of carries this idea that we're still a family unit, but it's actually very painful to keep telling that story because it's not actually true. And my sisters were, as Kiran said, innocently, but still pretty awful with me and us to each other. So no, thank you. I don't want to keep perpetuating that in the name of let's all be together. At least not until maybe there's more healing and it becomes ripe again, or maybe not. I don't know.
I'm going to link a video that I made on repressed memories. I actually have another video that talks about how sexual inappropriateness or abuse very innocently gets created in people. And, I also have this really sweet article on 12 boundary violations that so easily get walked over as a parent. But even as a child of a parent, it's really nice to read that because it can help you understand what was going on. And more importantly, solutions. So just like Cami's saying right here in the podcast, like she's realizing in real time the enormous pressure she puts on herself, when in fact it's an egregious relationship under the banner of a parent's storyline. And I think there's just like some kind of relief, just to like hear that, given that the majority of these relationships are toxic. So that's going to be all linked below. But luckily, warning over, headphones off. Not all siblings are that toxic. And sometimes even a less but still toxic bond can later in life be moved into a very sweet and lovely bond. So when it's lovely, it's a different story. Leela, I think you know that the best. How to turn something that was egregious and potentially toxic into something that's actually very sweet.
Yeah, I think like one big shift in the relationship with Aaron, the brother that's closer to me in age, was when my ex-partner died. Because I left everything and went traveling for 3 months, and he came and joined me for a month in Hawaii. And he felt like this incredible support at that time. Like he was a solid rock I could just lean on and cry. And being the hobbit man he is, he wouldn't say much. And he would certainly not indulge me to go into storytelling. So he was just there and held me. And it was this hobbit presence that was super soothing and reassuring at the time. Then it got a bit complicated again. with him and my family, the whole family. But through working with Kiran and clearing a lot of my baggage, now I'm in this place with both of my brothers where I feel them both as this rock solid presence in my life. Like there was another moment I'm remembering with Gabriel, the baby brother, where I was very emotional and I cried. I don't remember why, I just cried. And this 20-something old man, he just held me in a way that felt just so clear and natural, and I was amazed at his capacity to do that, to provide that level of presence. Like, whoa, wow. So now it feels like I can rely on them no matter what. They're here, and I feel their love for me as such incredible nourishment. Like, wow. I find them also very funny, and they find me funny. So when we're together, we have these inside jokes, and I think there's also a deep sense of understanding each other that part of it comes from growing up with each other. Not that that was all great, but you know, maybe there's a bit of trauma bond in there now that I say it out loud. But there's a sense, a true sense, a real sense of connection with those two that is really sweet and wonderful. And, you know, the other day I was thinking how it's funny that my brothers are part of the small circle of my favorite people in this world. That's quite astonishing. I never would have expected that. Because, you know, they're quite different from me. They're so different from me. Like, one is a farmer and the other one is a mechanic, and they lead very, very different lives. Like, oh my God, talk about different values. But, you know, there's this love that is there that carries our relationship. And the way we got here to this sweet, connected, nourishing place was, as mentioned, via tons of boundaries and a moment of almost no contact or no contact at all.
So like space and boundaries.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, that's a solution. And similar to what Cami was just sharing, we had all these family activities that we all had to do together to play, you know, good family. And at some point I was like, I can't participate in this anymore. It's so painful. Like, yeah, I have no space there. I can't breathe. And with Kiran, I learned how to install those good boundaries, get the space I needed, and, you know, also how to train myself and them that no means no. Like, it's not a negotiable. And over time, as I felt more safe to set these kind of boundaries, they weren't questioned anymore. And once that was clear, then the option to use delicious yes showed up. Like, how are we going to spend time? Often I would sort of have a clear vision inside of myself, what I want or what's delicious inside of myself. Like, I want to see them for a meal and I want this to be the meal, or let's go do this activity together. And, you know, they're super happy that I propose these delicious things so they don't have to come up with anything. And we end up having a wonderful time. Like, there was this kind of important event coming up and things were proposed and it was clearly not delicious. It all felt like horribly charged and disgusting in my system. I said no. And, you know, the event came closer. So there was more pressure to do something together. And they proposed other stuff, like really half-assed shit. I was like, no, can't do that. And as this event came closer and there was more and more pressure, I could feel the pressure on myself to be like, oh, fuck it. Yeah, let's just do their version and, you know, abandon what's actually delicious. But luckily, at this point, we are quite trained that I trusted that the delicious is what's going to be true for everybody. And it's going to sort of, that might sound strange to some of you, but that it's going to take care of itself. And it really did. So in the end, we had a wonderful time. We had such a good time that at some point I turned around and looked at them and was like, I'm having an incredibly I'm having an incredible time with you guys. Like, thank you so much. Something I never said before and never thought I would ever say.
So it's the same formula, whether they're little children or big children, the siblings for each other, right? It's having the boundaries, right? The boundaries, having the space to set the boundaries, and then being able to lead from this, where your authentic rhythms are, and having the space for everybody's authentic rhythm. So you're basically, it's the same recipe and you've been applying it, and it's been good.
Yeah, and it's like just another example of my delicious is their delicious, and it's answering everybody's delicious.
Woo! I feel like that needs to be celebrated. It's always so inspiring when you can apply delicious yes in high pressure situations because it always wins the day. And I try to do that with my family. And once in a blue moon, it works. I'm like, I really hear my yes, and I'm going to stand in my boundary, and they're going to challenge me on it at least 6 times, but I'm still standing on it. And here's what my yes is. And then we get together. There's a structure. Somehow everybody thrives inside of it. They're as surprised as I am, and we have a great time. But if I'm honest, it probably lasts a couple of hours every 2 years. It's not a hugely sustainable movement inside of my sort of family tribe. If I try and do it any more than that, they just pile on me like they're allergic to delicious yes. So it's really hard to make any kind of headway. And there's an element of nostalgia that keeps me going back to try, because like Leela says, you have all these shared memories together. And when you get along with the sibling, it can be such a sweet thing.
So one of the things I feel like is worth mentioning at this point is that you don't have to be born to your sibling. I mean, I guess it's obvious with step siblings or something like that, but we can pick them up as adults. We can pick up siblings. Mm-hmm. There are siblings around us. It could be blood, like it could be a cousin or something like that, but it could also be like your ex-spouse or the boyfriend you had in college, or, like it could be your brother's ex-girlfriend or something. Like, we can pick up siblings along the way. I have a friendship in my life he's just my little brother. And he likes to say that in the last 4 years, the number of times he's not had dinner with Kiran can be counted on one hand. He's very good to me most of the time. And in some of my darkest moments where I've had some profound karmic up levels, which meant some profound challenges, he's been a balm and a very incredible support in that little brother way. It's soft. There's no demand. I have no demand on him. He has no demand on me. And it's lovely.
Yeah, similar to Kiran, I feel like I've picked up a non-blood sibling along the way. I would say my ex-husband is in that category. Because we fight so much. We say the stupidest things to each other, and he says some pretty dumbass shit to me, and then 5 minutes later we're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then it's like back to normal. It never happened. And there's this feeling that no matter what, he's got my back, and at the same time has no demands from me. And there's room for, authenticity and delicious yes, and we want that for each other. So I think that's what makes the bond so lasting.
Yeah. So if you think you're an only child, look around. Cast a wider field, because you probably have a sibling. And if you have a bunch of siblings and it's actually so much pressure and it's so toxic, you could drop them and still have siblings.
Get new ones.
just let new ones look at the new ones. I think that a lot of our decoders are parents or aunties or uncles or grandparents or something. So I want to throw out some tips. Because, like, poor parents, there's so much pressure to have more children. If you have one, there's a lot of pressure to have more. Almost every adult you cross path with is like, when are you having another? All of the children's friends, parents, deeply pressurize you. Because if you make a play date with one kid, the other parent might have two or three, and they're like, wait, I can't make a play date with just one kid. I got to make a play date with three kids. You know, like, so there's, this gross internal pressure. So if you happen to have the money, the time, and the emotional maturity to have many children, then it's really important, as we're saying, to have their own space. Ideally, their own bedrooms with a door that shuts. But if you can't make that happen, you can still turn a single bedroom into multiple bedrooms. You can throw up walls. You can throw up, curtains, room dividers. You can make it work. Let them have their own toys. Let them have their own one-on-one time with mom, dad, grandma, auntie. They don't always have to be pushed together. Encourage the children to have their own rhythm and their own authentic values. If you spot it and you're the auntie decoder or you're the uncle, call it out loud, laugh about it. Say, it's like, oh, there's, Tommy likes to move really slow. That's so sweet, and look at Rebecca wants to spin around real fast. Call it out so that we can enjoy the authentic rhythms. And this is a big one, especially decoders. You can do this. Your children can have their own values that are different from you authentically. You can have a daughter that only wants to wear princess dresses, and for the adults around her to tell her she's beautiful, even though you're a real feminist and you want her to be noticed for her innovative ideas and her humor. I know it's challenging. And you can have sons who want the same things. They want to wear the tiara and they want to wear a dress to school. And you can be honest with them that the other kids are going to hate on them and it's going to be hard for them, but you'll stand by that option. Parents, let your children make their own choices. That's your job. Literally, that's the job. Training your kids to be more and more capable to be independent. That's it. Which is built in, that you're training them to see their authenticity and honor their own DY. And you provide that stepping stone, the developmentally appropriate choices. Obviously a 3-year-old can't cross the street by their own, but a 3-year-old can certainly make a choice if we're going to sit for a minute or cross the street right away. You can give a 3-year-old 2 choices. Anyways, we want to be warm and connected with our children, but we want them to be independent, which means give them space. Let the boundaries be important. Let them express their authentic rhythms. And just to put it out there, blended families are unnecessary. There is very little, and even mostly no benefit for the kids, generally speaking here. And in 2025, as we grow more and more into AI, there are so many ways that we can be together without being under the same roof. The technologies are incredible, and we're used to those technologies. So if our relationships, and every relationship involved in a potentially blended family situation, they are going to be more soft, more lovely, and connected if they are not forced together. So it also allows the parent to have a lot less stress on them. Blended families are extraordinarily stressful on the parents. So, and kids fighting, forcing kids together, whether it's blended family or not. Anyways, there's all kinds of ways to take the stress off when we allow our children their own space and their own one-on-one time and their own rhythms.
Yeah, thinking back to my blended family situation, they're wonderful. I love them all, but it's not like we have a thriving, close relationship. And I do wonder what that would have looked like if there was more space for everybody's individual needs, between my stepsisters and my half brothers and whatnot. And, you know, if we weren't piled together for 6 hours in a car journey and had to share the rooms and the toys and try to split everything evenly.
Yeah, and we're saying like the little ones have very different needs than the big ones. And so, you know, parents who want to blend families together, maybe consider letting the kids just be close cousins. Maybe just live across the street. Maybe just design holidays and birthdays in ideal rhythms, you know, like.
So after having said all of that, after having heard all of that, like what are the things we, the three of us, wish we knew growing up?
Yeah, I wish that I could say no. For me, it's that simple. There's such enormous pressure, both directly and indirectly, in a nuclear family situation, to conform, to go with the family, and in my case, the enormous harm in that under these banners of like the family is the most important bond you'll ever have, or siblings are your best friends for life, like all that kind of crap. Man, if I knew no was allowed, wow.
I think for me, I wish I knew growing up, and this makes me want to tear up a little bit, that it's not a problem being you, or, you know, it's not a problem being me. It's not a problem having the needs that you have and the preferences and the sensitivities. I wish I'd known that there's a space where that gets to be cultivated and celebrated and not sort of try to be like ironed out so you can be like everyone else.
Yeah, it's so innocent in parents to mirror that there's not enough resource for everybody. That's a very indirect thing that parents pass on quite a bit. You have to shut up. You have to put up. You have to eat less. You have to take up less space. You have to have less needs. You have to have less emotions. You know, you need to have less time. You need less everything. And it's really innocent for a parent to constantly mirror that to their children. And I think it's a really beautiful thing to wake up and realize we are not too much. We are not a burden.
Geez, yeah. I wish I knew that. Very similar to what Cam was saying, like, I'm not a problem. Like, the way I am is, and yeah, me too. It's making me really emotional. The way I am it's wanted, it's desired, and it's a win for everybody. And that was definitely not the message I got. Like the message was like, just be normal for once. And it's not great to grow up like that. Nope. So to have this episode, to have this conversation feels like already one of our best episodes to me. Like, so valuable to hear that your authentic being is wanted from day one, not just as a 40 whatever year old person who had crawled her way back to authenticity. But no, that's wanted from life, from the moment you arrive.
Yeah, and I think peeling back the carpet and looking at all the crap we've parked under there and hidden under the sibling relationship. So I think lifting that up, because we talk all the time, decoders, about like, look at those belief systems, look at that hidden stuff, turn and face yourself. And so I love that we're picking up the carpet and looking at how fraught, dysfunctional, challenging the sibling relationship is in its own right. It's different than parental. But, you know, I did write a parenting college, kind of like an app for parents. Has these lovely modules that are like basic training, like P.S. This is the job. Like many parents don't even know the basic job description, you know. It's innocent. We don't expect the parents to have a training or a skill set. But I wrote you one. And there's all these modules, and there's these lovely little sections where it's like quick solutions, you know, when there's a real problem, and a quick list of developmental needs that go up to age 21, because often developmental needs sort of end around 8 or 9. Anyways, it's a beautiful thing, and it's very, very thorough and I love it, but I haven't released it. Decoders, we have this whole back room at the Kiran Trace community headquarters. It's like books and things I've written that are not yet disseminated. And the Parenting College is collecting dust with all these other gems that will one day be released. I would love to release the Parenting College with another podcast. I'd love to do a podcast just on parenting. But for now, I'm just going to put some of these links down below. Take some time. It is helpful if you're a child of a parent or if you're a parent, because starting to look under the rug and see what's there and starting to understand how innocently it got there, and most importantly, the solution for you today.
Yeah, so Decoders, what's under your carpet? Tell us your sibling story. Did you have a great experience with the blended family situation? Did you find a sibling along the way? Yeah, please let us know. We love to hear from you.
You know, this episode really cracked all three of us. Each one of us have had a little cry pause. You know, we love to hear from you too. It's a delicate and rich subject.
I did not expect that when I suggested
Yeah.
Let's talk
the
about
topic.
Bye, Decoders. We love you.
Bye.
Love you so much. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening. We obviously love hearing what you think. Your feedback helps us make a better show for you to listen to. So feel free to comment, and you can do it at Facebook, which is the Humans Decoded podcast. And if you're not on social, you can always email any questions to us at outreach@kirantrace.com. And thanks for listening. We love you.